Our next guest is an award-winning author, and her business expertise is shared nationally on both radio and television. Her new book, I love the title, Make Money, Not Excuses, teaches us to wake up and take charge. Joining us via satellite from New York City, Jean Chatzky. Jean, great to have you with us.
It's nice to be here. This is so impressive. I'm really, really thrilled.
Yeah, it's wonderful, Jean. I don't know if you've had a chance to watch over the last 3 days. This is our 4th day of live webcasting. Just so many incredible entrepreneurs and leaders and small business startups. It's a courageous group of people.
It absolutely is, and they haven't been in a better place in a better time. It's a terrific time to start a business as long as you can get your financial act together while you're doing it.
Yeah, let's talk about that. You know, we've talked about one of the biggest hindrances to people who have great ideas is just taking that first step. What is your advice to get over that fear?
I think you really have to focus in on your passion. I know that you've been talking about passion all morning with some of my favorite people like Rich Sloan from Startup Nation. You need to know what you're all about, because people who find that passion in their lives turn out not only to be more successful in their endeavors, whatever those endeavors happen to be, but they're happier once they get there. They feel more inspired to go to work and work hard every day simply because it doesn't feel so much like work.
Right. Is passion enough, though, Jean, to be successful?
You need to back up that passion with a down-to-earth, bones-to-bones sort of a plan. You need to understand your industry, what it's going to take you to succeed in this business, what it's going to take you in terms of capital, in terms of staff, in terms of physical plant. And once you have those things, then you'll be able to chunk it down a little bit. It's awfully hard to look at the big goal. You have to set little benchmarks for yourself along the way and then go through the process of reaching those, whether they are managerial or actually financial.
All right, so we're a person that has a great idea. We feel passionate for it. When is the right time to leave that 9-to-5 paycheck and just launch? I mean, do we need to be restless? Do we need to be unhappy? I mean, what is your advice about the right moment?
I prefer to see people not leave, to tell you the truth. I'd rather see people start that business in an incubator. Do it at home, do it at night, do it on the weekends, do it part-time, and test the waters a little bit. See if you've got an idea that will actually work not just in your head, but on the open market. Once you start to get revenue coming in the door, all of a sudden, then you'll have the market experience behind you to know whether this is a workable idea. And guess what? At that point, you have a track record. It becomes much easier to get capital. It becomes much easier to hire people to work for you. I do a radio show for Oprah and Friends, and I was on the radio at one point with Mary Lou Quinlan, who's very well known for her small business advice. We got a call from a woman who said she was seeing $400,000 a year in revenue and wanted to know if it was finally time to quit her day job to do this full-time. And Mary Lou and I just looked at each other and smiled, because this is what you want to see. You don't necessarily have to get to that $400,000 a year, but you should know, particularly in this economy, that you've got an idea that's real and workable before you quit that 9-to-5 job.
Are there any stats out there available on how many startup businesses are started by men versus women right now?
We know that in the last 5 or so years, more than double the number of businesses that have been started by women than by men. And if you think about this from a life cycle perspective, it makes total sense. Women are the ones who take a break from the workforce, and when they want to get back into the workforce, they look at all their alternatives, all their possibilities, and starting a business, particularly when you are not currently working in a 9-to-5 job, can be a very attractive idea.
Yeah, it certainly is. And for those of us who have to balance our home life and careers, it makes sense, as you said.
I hate that word balance. We don't balance.
We don't.
We don't, believe me.
We try to balance.
I have 2 kids. I had to get on the bus this morning before going to the Today Show, before going to radio, before coming here. Balance, it just doesn't exist. We juggle. And some days we are better at work than we are at home, and some days we're better at home than we are at work, and if we're lucky, over the course of a week, we achieve some sort of happy medium.
Let's talk a little more about women-owned businesses, because I'm really just curious about how they're run these days. Do women run their small businesses differently than men?
I think women tend to be, and I'm trying not to broach any lines here, but I think women tend to be a little bit more compassionate in terms of being flexible with other people's schedules. We do our homework. We know where we're going before we make our decisions, just like we do when we invest in a stock or buy a mutual fund. Once we get in there, though, we inspire terrific loyalty. We tend to stick with it for the long term. Because we've done our homework, we know what it's going to take to achieve that success. And because we've faced the sort of obstacles in the workforce that women have over the past 10 to 20 years, we tend to be a little more forgiving of the fact that the people in our workplaces, men or women, are facing those sorts of things themselves. The women managers that I know, the women business owners that I've talked to, care a lot more about whether the work actually gets done than whether they see your face from 9 to 5.
So true. I really find that women's networks, too, are becoming so powerful.
We have to help each other. You know, we are in this position where women are still only earning, once we're out in that workforce, about 81 cents for every dollar a man earns. I was so happy this year to see the number jump from 77 cents to 81 cents. I want to see it reach parity. But until we're there, I think the message hits home very clearly. We've got to help each other because we're the only ones who will.
Right. We're generating $950 billion in revenue right now. It's quite
in our small businesses, which is incredible, and we have the potential to do so much more.
There are women watching from all over the world too, Jean, and I know that, you know, the startups here have to be easier than perhaps in a place like Bangladesh or Brazil, where we've had people calling us.
Absolutely. But I think one of the things that's really interesting is that microfinance that began in Bangladesh and was so successful among groups of women in particular is starting to make inroads in this country. You know, you were talking a little bit earlier about the biggest challenge that stands in the way of people starting their own small business, and no surprise, it's money, it's finances. People are worried that they will not be able to fund these startups. Microfinancing is starting to be available in this country. If you haven't yet, you should really be pointing people toward countmein.org, which is an organization that is run by Nell Merlino. She actually founded Take Our Daughters to Work Day. Very, very impressive woman. And they are providing loans to women to start their own small businesses. And I heard earlier, you know, $10,000 is the average amount it costs for a startup. If you don't have that amount of money, this is one place where you can actually go to get it.
Right, and don't you think with all the technology that's available anywhere you are in the world is making it easier for people these days to start businesses?
I believe it's making it much easier not only to start those businesses, but to maintain those businesses, no matter where you have to be in your life. Technology can be a hindrance. It's hard to turn those Blackberries off when you're trying to go to sleep at night or trying to concentrate on what your kids want you to do. It's hard to sort of break that chain. But they also provide us with such tremendous advantages. The ability to do our work from home or on the road or travel or even, you know, from our cars, not while driving, by the way. You want to pull over to the side of the road before you start texting away. But yes, we have incredible flexibility to do teleconferences with people all over the world, and that means that we can save the hour or 10 that it would take us to actually get there in person.
As I said at the top of the interview, I really love the title of your book, Make Money, Not Excuses. What kind of advice would I find inside there, Jean?
You would find advice for overcoming your own particular roadblocks. I surveyed people around the country and asked them, you know, what is it that gets in the way of managing your money the way you know you could really do it? And people had a variety of different excuses. They were afraid. Their spouse did it for them. They couldn't handle investing because they found it too cumbersome or complicated or overwhelming. They didn't like math. A number of people still admit and suffer from math anxiety, which, by the way, has its own code with the American Psychological Association. It's a real thing. So the book actually takes all of those excuses, breaks them down, helps you understand why you're suffering from this particular dilemma or problem, and then gives you real-time strategies to get over those hurdles so that you can start getting wealthier than you are right now.
All right, so everyone has good ideas. I have about 10 on the hopper right now. How do
I have, a couple every day.
Exactly. So how do we take that great idea that we have and hone it into some sort of brilliant business idea?
I think the first thing that you have to figure out is whether that brilliant business idea is actually out there already. You go on the web, you do a search, you look for websites that are doing exactly the same thing, and then you ask yourself, okay, is this A, different, or B, better? It doesn't have to be completely new, but if you can do whatever it is in a way that makes it quicker, faster, easier, cheaper for people, well, then you are really on to something. And I think at that point, you dive in. You've done your research, you figure out what it costs. I have talked to as many entrepreneurs who have not ever done a business plan as those who have, so I'm not sold on the fact that you absolutely have to have one on paper, but you get in there and you literally give it a go. And I like this incubator approach where you give it a go without quitting your day job, without giving up your normal source of financial support.
We only have 30 seconds, Jean, but can you tell me the baby genius story to illustrate that real quickly?
Oh, absolutely. This is the baby Einstein story, actually. I had Julie Clark on the radio, and she was one of those entrepreneurs. She had this fabulous idea to teach kids, little kids, about art and music. She made a video in her basement on the cheap, ended up selling that company to Walt Disney for millions and millions of dollars because she believed in her own idea.
There you go, Jean. Great advice. We'll look for you on Oprah, Today Show, and other places, and we'll look for your book, Make Money, Not Excuses. Thank you, Jean Chatzky.
Sure.
For more information on this, just log on to sbsummit.com/guests. We'll be right back.